Hey guys, back for another one. Today we are playing 3-6 Fixed Limit Razz. Razz, for the people who haven't watched the other videos for the most part, Razz is a lowball game. This is ace to 5 Razz, meaning the best hand is 5-4-3-2 ace. Sometimes in the other mixed games we play deuce to 7 Razz, which is slightly different. This game, you are trying to make a wheel, and everyone in a stud game, unlike most flop games, everyone gets their own board, so it's slightly different. So opposed to all you guys who play No Limit and Pot Limit Omaha, where we're sharing community cards, this game you get your own hand. You're trying to make the best hand possible. The high hand on 3rd Street, as we call it, after the first 3 cards dealt, acts first. So the king in this game is going to bring in first the high card. Of all the 8 cards over here, we'll bring it in first. And then the person to their direct left, so it's going to go clockwise around. The action is going to be completed. Wheel is obviously the best hand, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A 6 is a very strong hand. 7 is a pretty strong hand too. And then they're kind of relative because it really just depends on what your opponent's board is. Like here we have a 9 opening. If a 9 was opening into like every single low card, 9 opening actually from this position, depending on what other up cards are out there, is possibly a little too loose. I didn't see the other up cards when I was talking, so I don't have a good sense. But it is important to know what the other dead cards are. It's like just like in any stud game. I'm not quite sure why Razz seems to be honestly the game of choice. I'm going to move the screen over 1 second. But I've seen a fair bit of Razz going on this site as of late. Razz can be a pretty frustrating game, but there are definitely moments when it can be a lot of fun. So if the queen in the 7 fold here, I'm going to open the 6. If the 7 opens, I have Jack 10 in the hole, so not really. I have a pretty bad hand in this situation, even though I have the lower card than the 7. So I'm going to fold. King defends. He's basically saying, I think you're stealing way too wide with the 7. I'm going to call you here with most likely 2 low cards in the hole. 7, 5, 4 is pretty strong. The king here has to be, pretty careful. Like even this situation here, 7, 5, 4 probably would be if he has a 7, would be a really good hand to trap with, to be honest. He wasn't stealing too wide though. I think this is still a bet on the river, the 8-7 perfect. I think that's kind of a pretty tight check from Josh. Okay, so now we have to look at the dead cards. The queen's going to bring it in, and if it's folded to us, we do have a 9 in the hole, but we have 5 showing. This is pretty much going to be most likely a playable hand in this scenario. Now, just because one of these cards might open up, if the 6 opens, it doesn't necessarily mean he has a best hand. From here, he should have a pretty strong range betting into the field. We're going to call here against the 7. The 9's a little bit wide. Yeah, I wouldn't call here with the 9 because now what happens a lot is if the 7 actually has a good hand, he's supposed to jam and get the extra equity out. A lot of times on 3rd Street, what you're doing here is you're actually jamming a decent bit against wide ranges. There's a fair bit of dead money in the pot. We have the lead here with the 5-3. You also do want to do some cold calling occasionally with some strong ranges. The reason being is that you also don't want to just give your range away. Like if you're only 3-betting like 3 cards to a 6, your opponent has a pretty big beat on you. Now, I have to think that Josh in this situation has a pair. I have a deuce 3. My guess is if he calling with a 9, he's, like the best hand he could have here is like, like deuce 3. I have a deuce 3 and I have 2 5s, so I'm really like blocking his range, so I'm going to call one more time. The problem here is I made 9-7, and now when he bets river, I'm not really looking that great because even if he has a deuce or a 3, he still scoops me because my hand is 9-7, 5-3-2, and his hand is 9-6. But given the fact that he did bet this river, I'm going to pay him off just pretty light because I think he paired that ace. He did pair the ace, and he did pair the 6, it looks like, but he did make a 5. So I did pay him off pretty light there, but given the fact that he called with a 9, again, you have to be prepared. He's basically, I'll go back here and let's show the hand history. I also didn't think that he would bet a 1-card 9 in that situation, because that's actually a really, really thin bet. Because I don't have a 9 showing in my hand. Like, a lot of times I'm drawing to beat the 9. I just happen to have a 9 in the hole in that situation. So, like, I can't actually, I don't even know if he's bluffing or not, to tell you the honest truth. I don't think he's value betting. But when he calls with a 9, he's basically saying, I have 2 cards in my hand under a 6 or under. So when he does that and he catches 6-4 ace, there's a very high probability, especially when I have deuce 3 5-5 in my hand, ace 8 here, we're going to fold, that he paired at least one of his cards. Meaning that if he paired at least one of his cards, I might have a draw. I probably have a draw to beat him. I definitely think it's slightly loose, but I think the other thing too, that when he hesitated, it was most likely that he had 1 or 2 pairs in his hand. Now, usually in this game, the low card is continuously leading. If the ranges are close, like say Josh caught a queen here and this hand caught a jack, like the jack is still slightly favored, but it's not by much if the perceived range, or like the opening range, is stronger than the person who called behind him. Kind of interesting when they're the jack 9 bets. Then Josh caught jack 10 and then folded. There's a good chance he might have just paired the 10. So we have 8-5-4 here. We have a couple low cards behind us. We have an 8, a 3, an 8, and an ace. This is a little bit loose. The 3-bet against an opening 5 with other low cards behind him. So we're just going to call here. We're going to bet here. It's interesting. He folded to a raise. Usually if you 2-bet in that situation and you catch a brick, you're usually not folding for 1 bet. There are situations where that might not be the case unless you caught a really bad card, you caught a pair. Like say he had 2-7, like if he had a 7 in the hole and there's 2 7s dead, and I catch a 7, I didn't pair my 7, he catches a really bad card, that means I just caught a really good card for my range. Like there's a chance I paired that 7 in that situation. That's why he should continue. He's still got pretty good equity if he's got a real 8 draw, real smooth 8 draw. But once, say if, like I said, 2 7s were dead in that situation, and I catch a 7, it's very unlikely I paired it. It means that my equity just went kind of through the roof. Okay, here we got the king opening, the 4 opening. Again, this range is probably pretty wide. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's got, I would say 3 low cards. He could have a brick in the hole. So, got to be cognizant of where people are stealing from. If Neil opened in this spot and there were a bunch of low cards behind him, most likely that range is pretty strong. It's very similar to like concept of like if you're under the gun and limit hold'em. Like your range should be very strong from back position, but if you're on the button and everyone folds to you in like a 6-handed game, you're opening relatively wide, but your range under the gun is like a lot tighter compared to what your button range is. 3-6-8 here, not great. 2 aces folded. I don't love it for my hand, but I am going to open the 6. 3 deuce behind me. He calls. Deuce is a good card for us. We're going to lead. He might have paired the 7 considering he called and re-raised, because he's even re-raised like an 8 up. Four is a pretty good card for him. pair 6 obviously. I'm still going to continue. I'm going to see one more. 9's not great. Still going to see one more. Try to draw to the 8. Pair the 8s. And probably going to fold to his bet if he checks. And when he checks there, my guess is he's got one card underneath in this spot. And this is why I like paid him off. The other hand is I don't think he's going for like super thin bet, but I can't win really if he's got one card underneath. And he doesn't go for the value bet there with the 8, 7, 5, 4, 3. I think that's okay. It's kind of weird. Let's see if this works. Control R. Control R. No. Give me a second. I'm trying to get it. Okay, we're back. That was weird. Sometimes they have to. There's a. I know Phenom has a technicality right now where you have to reset your window if you lose your buttons. I know they're working on it. Occasionally that does happen right now. But you can get them back. It's not like your hand's folded. You just have to usually hit Control R. It's just one game. Goes for a good bet there with 9-5 against someone obviously drawing to a 9. Here in this situation with 7, we're going to open. We have 2 aces dead. 7 behind us as well. It's actually kind of good for us that we that those pairs are out. That means we're not going to pair those cards, so our hand's a little bit stronger. Ace deuce 9 in this situation. This is one of the spots again where the 6 is bringing in, which is quite rare. With a 9 in the hole in this spot and giving the fact that all the other deuces are out, I'm going to go ahead and open it. I would like to see another ace out there, but unfortunately it's not. Now if it goes raised, 3-bet, 4-bet, something like that, or 2-bet, 3-bet, I would consider actually folding this hand, but I don't mind making a kind of a loose-ish open. It's a pretty good card for us. I'm going to go ahead and bet, and if Josh raises, that's fine. None of the 5s are out. Josh should raise a lot there, so there's a good chance he paired that 5. Pair the 4. I am going to go ahead and check this one back. I'm kind of turning my hand up a little bit here by checking, but the he caught an 8. He caught a 4, which is a really bad card for me. So I don't know if I'm going to go with my read in this situation or not. Well, when he calls here in this spot, it probably paired an ace. More than likely. I think I'm just going to fold. I think I'm drawing dead with a 9. A lot. But when Josh catches a 4, that's a really bad card because I have 2 4s in my hand. And then when he pairs an ace or catches an ace, so he had deuce 3 7 it looks like, and Josh had actually he had an 8 in his hand. So he had like ace deuce 5 or deuce 5 8. He should definitely on 4th Street be raising to try to isolate the pot between the two of us. And we're gonna if snake opens here, we'll probably 2-bet with the 2 8 7. We're definitely gonna open here. Okay, in this situation here, I'm gonna look at. We're gonna fold with face card. Depends if I open this hand or not, depending on what the up cards are, but there was a lot of low cards behind me, so we are going to let that one go. Actually, you know what I might do? I might do something fun here. So what I might do is there's a fun mix going. I might just change it up a little bit tonight. So let's do this. How about we'll move this one over. We have 694, 695 size. We're just going to fold this one real quick and just go back to, I'm going to open the fun mix. Might move this one over here in a second. And maybe finish this one off. Finish this video off. So let me pause it and I'll switch them up. All right, we are going to, love the Razz in the background too. I'm playing that one still, but at the same time, we will be we'll play the fun mix too. This one also has Razz, so we'll do kind of a little bit of a double. 9 in this. Oh, I'm not doing the Razz game anymore. Forgot to talk about it. We can see the fun mix over here too. We have Ace 5 triple draw, Deuce 7 Razz, Limit 08, Badusi Deuce to 7, Badugi Stud 8, and Deuce to 7 triple draw. These are assigned. I think in the future they might let us create our own mixes, but right now they're, I would say, somewhat assigned. But you can definitely get on their Discord and request games. They're very good and they're developing more. Ace Deuce Deuce 6 here in the big blind, Rainbow. We're just gonna call, and most likely we're just gonna check fold this flop. We don't really connect with it. We have backdoor lows, but there's nothing else really with it, so we're gonna fold. Omaha, you need 3 cards on the board, 8 or better. And then in your hand, 2 that do not pair. So if there's a board that's like 8-7-6 and you have Ace Deuce in their hand, you have the nut low. And Ace Queen 9-9 in this spot. I'm going to go ahead and call the small blind with the suit. And we're going to go ahead and check flop. And we are going to check call the flop here with the gut shot. Make 3 aces on the turn. We're going to check call again. And then on the river, we're still going to check call with the ace queen. Yeah, and a lot of times on these like high boardish hands, when you have an ace, your opponent's just going to have like some sort of low hand. Deuce Deuce 3/8's a little bit too wide to be opening that spot. And that's where you kind of catch them. Not really too much value in raising there. We didn't really have like the strongest hand. Ace Ace Deuce 5, an extremely strong hand pair. So we're going to be 3-betting, raising anything. Pretty bad flop texture for our hand. So I think a lot of people like over c-bet this flop, but we just go ahead and check it back and try to see a turn. On the turn we turn the nuts. He bets into us. We obviously call once. River's a 3, and a lot of times on this river I pay off with aces a lot because like the 9-10, the 9 Queen Jack board doesn't really connect with a lot of opening ranges, but we're just going to check because I don't really think we have a ton of makes queens in 3, so he does beat us, but it doesn't connect too much with an opening range. So Badusi, best hand is 7-5-4-3-2 with 5-4-3-2 Rainbow. Here we have a 2-4-8. I'm going to open this one. And we're going to draw 2. We're going to throw away the 10 Badugi. I guess in a situation like, I shouldn't just discard. If he takes 4, I'll probably keep the 10. But we're just going to go ahead and break. Really interesting spot here with the Jack Badugi and Jack low. But he did take 2, so we're just going to call, and we're going to throw away the Jack. I usually recommend breaking to try to improve your Badugi. This is a spot where you still can. It's 2-3. We still got the 2-3 we didn't improve, so we're going to call one more time. And we did not improve, so we catch a pair of 4s. So we're definitely going to fold the deuce part of the hand. So the only question is, do we have any value with the 2-3-8? And I don't think the answer is yes. So we're just going to go ahead and fold, because most likely we are going to lose both pots in this situation if we call down. Now, if we had 2-3-4 there, I think 2-3-4 has enough value to call down. But the problem is that Usually in a 2-2 spot, if someone leads into you, a lot of times they make a Badoogie. 2 card 3-6 here. We're gonna fold. They're always all in. Yeah. It's one of the risks that you do in this game, drawing one way. If you draw one way and you're not usually nutted, you run the risk of getting scooped. In this situation, oh, I'm sorry, I'm talking about the Razz hand. But in this situation here, a 6 decided to steal, so I re-raised with a 9, ace-4 in the hole. I do get 3-bet. Unfortunately, guys, I'm playing Badoosie over here, so we're going to fold this one. I'm going to pause this for 1 second. And all right, we are back. We bricked out basically in that other hand. And then as soon as I change, I get dealt number one in Badoosie, which is kind of hilarious, but we're going to stand pat there, fold this one, we're going to bet. And again, our opponent stood pat there with a 8 low and a 3 card 8, which again is, you know, highly recommend drawing for both sides of the pot. Looks like we might get some action here, so I might go back both ways. Oh, no, they all left. All right, I guess we're going to stick with the Razz. Jack up, we're going to fold the jack. Two opens, the 4 3-bets. And there should be a fair bit of isolating too in Razz. Two 5-7 checks here, which is really interesting. I mean, like that usually tends to be a trap. Ace Jack in this situation with the Jack up. I think there were some low cards behind me here, so I'm going to let it go. I did miss the dead cards. It is definitely hard when you're multi-tabling something to keep track. I'm not going to say that I'm the best at it. I try to look very fast. Split tens here, no good. Three gets it done. I've got a 9 up here, but a lot of low cards behind us, so we're just going to go ahead and throw it away. Probably we're going to face a lot of pressure a lot of times if we limp. You can do some limping stud games. There's a lot of dead money, and that's one of the most important things with respect to stud games, is how big is the ante. If the ante is quite large, you get to play a lot of hands. It's very similar like PLO. If the ante is quite big, you get to play a lot of hands. And you get to limp a lot of hands, and you can also do that too in this game as well. But you also have to know, like, if you're gonna face a lot of pressure, then there's really no point. All right, 10. There are situations here where you could play this 10. My guess is that we're probably not going to be able to. If it folded to the 5 here and the 5 opens, so it's a little bit tricky. But since the 7 opens up, most likely that range is a lot stronger, so we're just going to give it up. Always looking for spots to play. Split aces here, unfortunately. Wrong game. Deuce 3 jack. Don't like the brick in the hole. We're going to lay it down. See what else is going over here. Yeah, 4th Street's really, I mean, 4th Street is definitely an important street in Razz because going forward now, every other street is going to be a big bet street. So 5th, 6th, 7th, we always have that extra big bet street. And if you're in a really marginal spot, you definitely have to think of like what your inverse implied odds are going to look like. And what I mean by that for people who are not necessarily familiar with the nomenclature, it basically means, you know, are you going to be able to realize your equity? So say in that spot, for round number's sake, Phenom has, Josh has like 25% equity and Ghost Runner's giving him exactly that price. Well, with a 10-8 board versus a 3-6 board, a lot of times he might be guessing on later streets. So even if he's getting the right price to call, that hot and cold equity is not really representative of how the hand's going to be played going forward. You know, a lot of times in No Limit Hold'em, we might be able to put a guy in a specific range. We do put him on a specific range, but your reverse implied odds of going forward or how the hand plays out doesn't really give us the right price to call. And if your board is really rough and their board's really smooth, even though you might be getting the right price against their range, it's going to be really hard to realize your equity because they a lot of times get to play perfectly against you. 3-5-10 in this situation, I'm going to go ahead and go for the steal. I like using like a reference of like 2 wheel cards in a situation like this with 2 players behind me as a good reference to go ahead and try to steal. Queen should usually not be calling here. And we pair 3s and we're just going to let it go. Because if this card was a 4, I would probably call. You know, if I had like 3 cards under the 8, but now I'm like drawing to a 10 with a pair of 3s. So I'm just going to throw it away. Bricking out pretty good today. See if we can get one more interesting hand in here. So 7 opens, 7 2-bets, 6 cold calls. I'd like to see it probably a 3-bet from the 6, and the reason being is then if he ever has any ability to get Josh to fold a hand, he should definitely try and go for it. Most likely well, I guess the 6-8 here. Either way, the 6 and 8 could probably check. Josh could probably, he could bet and try to get Josh to raise. Doesn't really matter. Like most likely here, the 6, this hand should check to the 7, the king 7-3, because most likely he should be betting. And now the 6-8-8, unless he has 3-8s, has a call. Even if he has 3-8s, he probably still has a call, given the pot size. Yeah, if you definitely run the equities a lot of times. If you give Josh a 7, you have to find the right type of hand. So here we have a 3-card 6, 2 3s and an ace are dead. We don't love this hand per se. this is one of the hands where I like to get a little bit tricky, and the reason being is like my other cards are dead, so I don't mind calling with like a 3-card 6 in this situation versus 2-betting. The ace catches a deuce. There's no deuces out there, and I block a lot of the hands that want to want to go forward, so I'm just going to go ahead and call. Now if ace deuce checks here, like I do have 4s, 5s, and 6s, but if the ace deuce checks here, like most likely he paired the deuce. I catch a deuce, which is just a lovely card for me. I think I'm going to go ahead and bluff my hand now, honestly. I think I'm just going to bluff it on both streets. Like I'm blocking a lot of the cards that he wants to have, and if he just has a hand that like has some value, yeah, there we go, we got him to fold. So that was a good one for us. But that's also like kind of the nice thing about our hand is like sometimes you decide to just cold call there with like a really good strong hand, and you get some folds on later streets. But having against an ace deuce queen when I'm gonna fold this one. It's against 2 players. When I block everything that he basically has in that situation. When I block everything that he needs to make a really good hand, the 4, 4, 5, 6, 6, it means that more likely than not that he has not a made hand, and we actually have the equity to continue. And then we got a really good card to semi-bluff with and won us the hand. See if we can play one more hand. Nine here is really not playable against all these low cards, even if it folds to us. We're going to be opening into 4 low cards. 10s plus a 10's not great, so. So we see 5 opens, 3 bets, 2 bets. Yeah, now it seems like a lot of players are kind of playing back at each other. And sometimes that's actually like I would say the flow of the game is usually when it starts out, people tend to be a little bit more cold call-y. Meaning like someone raises, another person cold calls, and then as the game kind of moves on, it's like, oh, they're playing a wide range. I'm just going to maximize my hand. I will say this, though, again, it is important in Razz, if you have the ability, I mean, you should be jamming your equity, there's no doubt about it, but you also want to protect your range a little bit. You don't want to just like have Josh's hand here and only have 3 cards under a 5. If that's the case and you're raising with that type of hand, your opponents can kind of narrow like it down if you've like paired or not a lot of times, depending on what the dead cards are. So I'd be slightly cautious. I would probably not be raising in this situation against the 3-5-7. Like, he's definitely saying he's got an extremely strong draw, but even against extremely strong draw, like a made 7 with a redraw there is a pretty big favorite over that. So I wouldn't be raising that. Plus, there's a lot of dead cards out there too. I think there was a couple 5s, and he did make a wheel, which is kind of crazy considering like what the dead cards were. Yeah. I would say lessons for today is just, really like looking to see what the dead cards are, keeping track. It's one thing I definitely have to work on is I guess in my head I know a lot of the things that I want to discuss and like things I'm looking for, but I need to be able to let you guys know what I'm looking for. So I'll try harder in the future. I catch a lot of things. I know when I'm done recording, I'm like, oh man, I wish I said that. So I'll keep trying. And again, if anyone has any comments or let me know the things that you guys want to be hearing about References for Razz. I think in the original Super System, there's a reference for Razz in there. I think it's probably fine. It's probably okay. If there's any Poker Go tournaments where they're announcing Razz, usually they have a pretty good to an okay Razz announcer. I don't know who did it this year. If Chris Fitch did it, then you should just totally listen to it. Anything Chris Fitch does is great. I give the shout out because he's a very close friend of mine. Fold this one. See if we can find one more. I'm not quite sure if I forgot who wrote. Let's Google this. Who wrote the Mixed Games book? Games Poker. Probably should be buying the Mixed Games Poker book. Mastering Mixed Games. Who is that by? Dylan Lind. Let's see if it's in here. Because I think a lot of the I have read, like I've read his Omaha section, and it's very, very, very basic. And I'm not trying to like knock him. He's just trying to get a lot of the let's see, Dealer's Choice Horse. Which kind of book? There are also formats. Dealer's Choice Horse. So Razz is in there. 8 game. But it's usually pretty short. I mean, the book itself is only like 250 pages, so it can't necessarily be that long. But it'll probably give you like a good intro and basic premise of the game, if that's something you want. Actually, I mean, that's probably a good, if you're learning the games, like Mastering Mixed Games is probably a really good book to introduce you to kind of the basic concepts of the game. And then I do recommend like watching the live gameplay of a channel like this, or if anyone else has something along those lines, just to get a good ebb and flow of what's going on, especially if they're talking about the game in game. Anything Chris Fitch does, I don't think a lot of the videos from Deuce's Crack back in the days, like he did a lot of Limit Hold'em, Deuce to 7. I know who Joel Tull did Hold'em. I don't know anyone who does good Omaha 8 or better stuff, so if you're looking for good Omaha 8 or better stuff, you come to the right channel. And yeah, if you guys want to subscribe and keep watching some videos, easy steal here when everyone folds. I have the low card 5 against a face card. It's an added bonus that I have 2 wheel cards, but I'm stealing 100% there. And then if everyone folds to me, I'll try to steal again with the 6 up as well. Probably doesn't get through there. All the little baby cards over here. Nope, we're gonna go for it again. The 10 should be pretty liberal here because again, I'm gonna steal really wide. I don't even think like I'm folding 6 king queen here. I just think the 10 is just gonna break off way too much for me to fold. And then yeah, there's a link if you guys want to play on Phenom. There's some good low limit action going on. And if you're learning the games, there's probably not too many places, I would say, better to learn. And yeah, there's a link in there. It'll help my channel out. It will keep me motivated to keep making these kinds of videos. So yeah, do that. See if we can play one more somewhere. And if we'll give it about 3 more hands or so, and if we don't get one, we'll just call it a day. See if I can give him a comment. We'll do 3 more hands and see if I can get you some commentary. It's hard. Razz is a hard game to announce and to really make fun to watch. Now, if it folds to me just because the 7 brought it in, doesn't mean I would complete the 5 here. Like, I would totally fold the 5 with 2 face cards in my hand because there's still a chance that he should be bringing it in. One of the other things I should say in this situation is if you are the bring-in in almost 100% of almost 100% of the time, what you should be doing is bringing it in for the minimum. So we call it for the bring in. So the bring in is you have the option. So if you're the high card, you can bring it in for $1, or you can actually complete it and make it 3. Now there's some tournament situations where you should be completing it for the full amount, but we're playing cash games, so we're not necessarily going to worry about that. But in this game, you should be just bringing it in consistently for the minimum. That way you're not tipping your hand, you're not giving any information away about it. Like if he had a 7 there and open completed it, he's basically saying I have a strong hand. But you should just always be completing it for the minimum, so you should always just be throwing it in for $1. If it folds to me, I'll attempt to steal it with the deuce as well. I don't like that Josh has an ace behind me, but I'm still going to go for it. Let's call. I haven't really been able to narrow down with like the call versus the 2-bet, because he did 2-bet me earlier with the now we're kind of both blocking each other. I'm just going to go ahead and check this one back. I think he improves, I don't, and I'm just going to check. What just happened? He checked again and checked again. Snap checked. Would I make it 10? I guess I'm just going to check it back. Make 10-8 and win. I'm not quite sure, like, not quite sure the snap check, or if he had like check fold on. He might have just had check fold on. All right, yeah, see, I have the option here to complete and bring it in for $3, but we always want to just bring it in for the minimum, because that way you're not tipping your hand away. When you have a face card up in this game against a bunch of low cards, it really doesn't matter. Like, it's more of a general thing where, like, if you're a 7 and you're against a bunch of other low cards, or maybe even a 6, you don't want to open complete it for the full amount. And that goes for like stud high too. That's a good scenario where, like, if you have a deuce up but you have rolled up deuces, or you have 2 deuces in the hole with it, meaning you have trips, you still should be bringing it in for the minimum, because you're just going to have so much random, well, crap's not the right word, but you're just going to have so much random stuff in your hand that just basically playing a bring in or fold, I would say, is probably the bring in for the minimum is just always the best scenario. Let's see if we can get one more in. Looks like Mr. Shadow might time out here. Yeah, I mean, Mr. Shadow should just probably always fold here. This is a really loose continue. And he's just, again, like the reverse implied odds, like it's a hand that he should just be folding. Like nothing really changes here. This is an important aspect to notice, is like nothing has changed between 5th Street and 6th Street. So theoretically, if he calls on 5th Street, he should be calling on 6th Street. And now he folds. So I don't necessarily know if those two I don't know if those two actions actually kind of follow each other. I mean, it is significant in one way. Like, he catches another brick and he catches a 5 that he might need, but I don't think it's. I still think it's like kind of almost the same hand. Oh yeah, last one. If it just gets to us, but again, we got to dodge all this. We would open the 4, but highly, highly, highly unlikely. Anything else going tonight? Got a 10-20. We got a 20-40. We got some big O going. Got some no limit. We got some PLO, some Razz, they're playing 2-handed Razz as well. Might have to jump in the 10-20 game when I'm done with you guys. We'll watch this one and then maybe another one. But Mr. Shadow looks like he might time out here. Knights and Sheriff. Yeah, I might play this one a little bit. wonder how much. It looks like they're going to give him about a minute if he's disconnected. And here's kind of an interesting spot too, where like, well, I guess I had a 4 up, so it's a little bit different. But say I had a queen up over here. If the ace opens into everyone and then this other person has an ace behind, I don't think that you should be necessarily re-raising your good hands. I think like you should be just doing some calling, and because both ranges are relatively strong, and you can definitely have you should like let your range be a little bit wide in this situation too. There's nothing wrong with that. And maybe we'll play one more here. I'm not quite sure. Well, we're definitely playing this one. All right, last hand, guys. See what happens. Not much there. I have a deuce in my hand, and I've paired the 10, so that is it, I believe. Trying to decide if I could continue for one more, but I'm just going to let that one go. All right, so that was Razz. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it can be punishing sometimes, but yeah, it's just another one of those games in the mix that if you want to learn mixed games, you just kind of have to learn. So actually, I'm just going to sit out. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, comments, or feedback, please feel free to comment. Link for a Phenom account in the description below. And I hope to talk to you guys soon. And yeah, good luck at the tables. Have a good night. Bye-bye.